Have you ever read Harry Potter and thought to yourself, man, this would be a lot more enjoyable if the writing was really bad and all of the characters were named after random celebrities? Well, then do I have a book for you. It's called Flute Tudor and the Secret Order. It's by J.J. Jones, and it's a shameless ripoff of Harry Potter. I'd like to share with you the synopsis from the back of the book. Flute Tudor is a child of prophecy. The predictions were written in the White Wizard scriptures of prophecy by the English Astronomer Royal Wizards during the 16th century. It is now the 21st century, and Flute Tudor becomes 12. He is a young boy heading into a bright future. Flute quickly establishes a reputation as the student to watch at the Institution of Endowment, a school for exceptional students. Along with his new roommate Maddie and his new girlfriend Diana, Flute takes on the challenges of this unusual school with flair. Meanwhile, an evil secret society of wizards and witches know that the prophecies speak of a boy wizard who will defeat and destroy them. The passage of evil where black magic comes from has warned the dark wizard order that the child of prophecy has been born, and this sinister order of wizards and witches will stop at nothing to kill Flute Tudor. Will Flute Tudor be able to overcome his new enemies and bring the wizard world together in harmony? Or will those who believe Flute is the child of prophecy be successful in erasing him from the earth? Man, doesn't that sound like something you want to read? No? Well, that's okay, because you don't have to read it. I'm going to read it for you. Flute Tudor and the Secret Order by J.J. Jones. Chapter 1. A Child is Born. It was a very beautiful spring morning in Liverpool, England, at the beginning of March, to be exact. In a house of greatness and wealth, there seemed to be a huge disturbance, so great that the house shook and rattled as if an earthquake was taking place. But this was no earthquake. This was a warning to the madam of the house that trouble was headed her family's way. Anna Tudor, the madam of this great house, was no stranger to such warnings from the huge mansion she'd called home for nearly a quarter of a century. Anna was a very powerful witch who knew everything there was to know about the wizardry and witches' spells and curses. And Anna knew when the mansion shook, the house was summoning her to the Hall of Mirrors. Anna frantically scrambled from under the covers of her bed, placing on her slippers while putting on her robe to cover the thin gown she had been sleeping in. Anna's face held a very worried expression as she hurried out of her bedroom and walked very fast through the great house towards the Hall of Mirrors. The Hall of Mirrors was actually a room that had many different kinds of mirrors with all sorts of different shapes and materials. Each mirror had a style of its own. There were more than 100 of them. The mirrors came from different countries all over the world. Some of the mirror frames were made of wood, some were of silver, and some were of gold. As Anna went out toward the Hall of Mirrors, the pictures inside of the frames seemed as if their eyes were watching and following her. The life-sized statues Anna passed by seemed to have turned their heads to watch what direction she walked toward. Anna's home had several life-sized statues and many pictures of past family members who belonged to the Tudor family. In fact, the house Anna lived in was called a palace in ancient times because of how huge it was. But in the 21st century, the house was simply referred to as a mansion. Anna was a middle-aged woman in her earlier 50s. Her beauty and youthful looks would deceive anyone who looked at her because she seemed to be in her early 30s. Anna had a son who lived with her, and his name was Harry. Harry was born to Anna and her husband Edward Tudor when Edward and Anna were 20 years old. Harry Tudor was CEO of the Bank of the Common People, which was an empire worth billions in assets, while in his early 30s. Harry's wife was named Elizabeth, and she was very beautiful in personality and appearance. She was also pregnant in her 9th month, and the child was due any day. Harry Tudor was a wizard who belonged to the White Wizard Order, a very secretive and powerful order of wizards and witches who lived in countries all over the world. The White Order of Wizards referred to themselves as the Brotherhood, and the White Order of Witches referred to themselves as the Sisterhood. Edward Tudor, Harry's father, was said to have been killed when Harry was about 10 years old. No one ever explained just how Edward Tudor was murdered, and by whom. Some things were better unspoken concerning the death of Edward Tudor whenever the Tudors conversed. Anna had raised Harry to be the leader of the family-owned bank, and Anna revealed to Harry the long line of wizards and witches that existed in the Tudor family history, the ones who turned to darkness, and the ones who stayed on the path of uprightness. Anna entered the Hall of Mirrors and sat in a chair in the middle of the room. The chair resembled that of a king's throne. The room was dark and gloomy, so that the ghostly images and faces that appeared in the mirrors on the walls would not be frightened off. The ghostly images in the mirrors were afraid of complete light. They were afraid of sunlight and light that generated from any kind of light bulb. The ghostly images appeared to look like ghosts in the mirrors, and they were completely white and beautiful. But if light was to reflect on the mirrors and the ghostly images were seen for how they really looked, these ghostly creatures that were considered beautiful would now be thought to be monsters. The ghostly images also thought that if light were to reveal their actual being, they would be cast into the abyss of eternal gloom. Wizards and witches knew that the ghostly images believed they would be cast into the abyss of eternal gloom if light was to expose them and reveal their actual being. So the wizards and witches kept the rooms dark with only candles burning to provide a glimpse of light so that they themselves would be able to see their way as they walked through the Hall of Mirrors. The wizards and witches preferred to call the ghostly images trickets, because some of the trickets were very crafted and just wanted to lie and trick the wizards whenever they spoke to them. The trickets in the mirrors were very important and of great value to the wizards and witches because trickets showed the future. Some showed the past and the present. Some revealed what was in the heart of other people who had hidden motives. Some revealed when others planned to harm you. Some would show you that you have the ability to change a path if the path you were on was leading to destruction. Some would show you how to attain great power over others and even nations. And do not ever forget that some wanted only to trick you and make you believe a lie. Wizards and witches learned about the different characters and the abilities of the trickets when the wizards and witches advanced to certain degrees and higher levels in the secret order of the White Wizards. A person could only count on one hand the wizards and witches who passed the test of the mirrors and mastered the trickets on their first try, and encountered the trickets that resided in the mirrors. It even took years for some wizards and witches to master the mirrors and know which trickets were telling the truth and which ones were telling a lie. Anna could not be deceived by the trickets because she had years of experience with the trickets in the mirrors. She could even call the trickets all by names if she wanted to. Anna commanded 3 mirrors to detach themselves from the wall and to stand before her where she sat on the chair that remarkably resembled a throne. 1 mirror at a time came off the wall and floated towards the chair that she sat in. All 3 mirrors stood before her chair, floating in midair for Anna to look the trickets in their ghostly faces and ask them questions. Anna asked, "Mirror of truth, is it you who is before me?" "It is I, Anna, that appears before you," the mirror said. "And who are the other 2 mirrors that appear before my seat?" Anna asked. The mirror replied, "It is the mirror that reveals the future events, and the mirror that reveals that destruction is at hand if another path is not taken." Anna then told the tricket in the mirror of truth, "Back to your rightful place on the wall, mirror of truth." Then Anna looked intently at the trinket in the mirror of future events and said, "Show me great things to come, whether they are pleasant or horrific." The trinket moved back from the front of the mirror, fading out of the sight of Anna's eyes, and then the visions began to appear in the mirror. Anna's face was gleaming with joy as she saw the visions. As the mirror revealed the visions, it was as if Anna was watching a movie from a television as the light reflected from the mirror onto Anna's face. "Back to your rightful place on the wall, mirror of future events," Anna shouted with joy. Standing on her feet while looking very excited about the visions she saw, Anna was laughing and dancing, clapping her hands and swirling around. Anna was bursting with laughter, shouting, "Hear me, you minions that are in this hall. I have seen great things. Even now, if I am joined to my husband this day, my life has been complete and fulfilled from what I have seen. Surely it will come to pass." After Anna began to calm down from the joy that overtook her, she sat back on the chair that resembled a throne and began to speak to the last mirror that floated before her. Anna spoke to the last ghostly image that stood inside the mirror that floated before her. "Show me the destruction that would happen if a different path is not taken." As the trinket in the mirror revealed the vision, Anna's joy turned to horror. Her face was now frowning, and an expression of sadness covered it. Anna began to scream, "No! No, no, no!" Anna leapt out of the chair and rushed towards the door of the room while constantly screaming, "No, no! We can't let this happen!" The vision had terrified Anna so much that she forgot to tell the mirror that showed the destruction that would take place if another path was not taken, to return to its rightful place on the wall. When Anna opened the door to the room of the Hall of Mirrors, the mirror that was floating in front of the chair that Anna was sitting in went crashing to the ground. The light entering the room from the open door had scared the trinket inside the mirror, and it fled. It didn't want the light to reveal how it really looked, thinking that the light would cause it to be cast into the abyss of eternal gloom. Anna went running down the corridor of her house, yelling for her servant Paul. "Paul, come quickly! Quickly, Paul!" Paul came running out of the kitchen where he was preparing breakfast for Anna, Harry, and Elizabeth in the early hours of this particular morning. Paul suspected that something was terribly wrong, for he knew that the house had trembled earlier that morning, and now he could hear Anna yelling for him with great urgency in her voice. Harry could also hear his mother calling for their servant with great urgency in her voice, so Harry kissed his wife Elizabeth on the forehead and got out of their bed quickly. He ran toward the door of the bedroom to find his mother. When Harry opened up the door to the bedroom, he looked back at his wife as she lay on the bed looking at him with an expression of worry on her face. Harry whispered while placing his index finger to his lips, "Do not come out of this room until I come back to the door to signal to you that it is safe. Come, lock the door. Do not open it up unless it is Mother's voice or my voice calling for you." Anna and Paul had found each other because Paul had followed the cries of Anna's voice by going towards the section of the house that Anna was calling from. Anna was breathing heavily as she took hold of Paul's arms. Anna said, "Hurry and find my son and instruct him to meet me in the Hall of Readings." Anna then began to move quickly toward the Hall of Readings. Paul found Harry, and Harry requested, "Where is my mother, Paul? Have you seen her?" Paul answered, "Your mother has requested for you to meet her in the Hall of Readings, sir." The Hall of Readings was a room with bookshelves standing against every wall in the room. It was as if the room was a public library museum, from the look and size of it. This room was so huge and so magnificent that thousands of books filled the shelves. The bookshelves stood at least 15 feet tall. There were even ladders leaning against bookshelves to climb in order to reach upper shelves if a person wants to read certain books. In the middle of the room in the Hall of Readings, there stood a table with a cloth covering it. There were stars, crescent moons, and suns designed into the material. On top of the cloth was a crystal ball the size of a basketball. The crystal ball gave out a beautiful, brilliant, and radiant sky blue light. Anna was already in the Hall of Readings, waiting for Harry to enter into the room. Harry entered and saw his mother standing by the table in the middle of the room. When Harry saw his mother, Harry exclaimed, "Mother, are you all right?" Anna placed her index finger to her lips while signaling her son to be very quiet. From her expression, Harry thought that someone or something was in the room. Anna signaled with her hand for Harry to come to her. When Harry got to his mother, Anna took him by the hand and began to speak. "As the oceans have expanded towards the lands, and as the sky has expanded over the head of man, crystal ball before my eyes, you must expand at my command. Now expand!" The crystal ball on the table began to grow and expand, like that of bubble gum blown out of a person's mouth. The crystal ball had become so huge that it now covered the entire table and sat on the floor while reaching the height of the 15-feet bookshelves. It was wide enough to take at least 20 people inside of it. Anna stepped inside the expanded crystal ball, bringing her son into the crystal ball with her as he held on to Anna's hand tightly. Once they were inside the crystal ball, it was as if they were inside a room that had all its wall, floors, and ceilings covered with sky blue paint. The same brilliant and radiant sky blue light that came out of the crystal ball also gave light to the inside of the crystal ball as well. Anna began to speak to Harry. "The reason why we are in the crystal ball is because no one or anything can eavesdrop on us and hear what I am about to tell you." The crystal ball had a sound barrier that no one outside of the crystal ball could hear what was being said on the inside. Wizards and witches used these crystal balls for centuries in order to share secrets with one another, because they knew that all things that stood still, walked, or crept had a voice to speak if a spell was used to loosen their tongues to speak in the human languages. Crystal balls were also used to summon wizards and witches who lived in other countries and in the world of Nambia. Anna said to Harry, "The Hall of Mirrors has shown me great things concerning the child who is in your wife's womb. The child is the chosen one, the one that will bring an end to the Dark Order, and all spells, curses, and wars that have plagued the human race will come to an end. Then shall this world become one with Nambia, the world of peace." Harry asked, "Mother, are you sure that it is the child and the Trickets have not lied to you? Maybe they have deceived you this one time, or the Astronomer Royal Wizards of England during the 16th century. What if you are wrong, Mother?" Anna replied, "Well, if I am wrong, then why have the Dark Wizards plotted to destroy the child when it is born? Unless another path is taken, you, your wife, and your child will be killed. If the child is born on land, the child will be killed. The Dark Wizards have been shown that your wife carries the very child that will end their reign of terror and the black magic against humanity." Harry became very frightened, so he pleaded with his mother, saying, "What magic must I use to defeat these Dark Wizards that they may fail in this attempt on me and my family's lives?" Anna replied, "There is no magic that can defeat them in this attempt on you and your child's life. You must change the path in order to save your family." Harry asked, "What path must I take, Mother?" Anna said, "Listen to me and do not share it with another. The destruction of you, Elizabeth, and your child happens on land, so the path you must take is to the sea. The Dark Wizards will not strike until the child is born. They will know where to find you if you stay on land, because everything on land speaks and has a voice if a spell is placed on it. The trees will speak, the grass will speak, the stones will speak, the ants and the spiders, the dogs and the cats, the birds and the bats, and even the mice and the rats will speak out against this child to the Dark Wizards if you remain on land when the child is born." So Harry did as his mother had instructed him. He took his wife and loaded the family yacht and stockpiled the boat with about 3 months' worth of food and water. Then Harry took to sail on the Atlantic Ocean, moving far away from land. On March 21st, Harry was standing on the deck of the yacht, staring off into the horizon and the calm sea. The sky had a few clouds scattered across the heavens, and a great peace was surrounding the yacht from the oceans. From beneath the deck, out of the cabin of the boat, came a screaming voice. "Harry! Harry, it's time! The baby is coming!" Harry jumped to his feet, not knowing which way to go, as if he had forgotten who he was, or forgotten how to walk towards the stairs that led down to the cabin. He took 2 steps in one direction with his hand to his head, as if he was trying to think. Elizabeth was still yelling from the cabin below the deck that the baby was on the way. Harry was a nervous wreck as he yelled out, "I'm coming, honey! I am on the way!" Harry ran down the stairs, going to the cabin that Elizabeth was in. Harry went into the cabin and shut the door. Moments later, the cry of a baby could be heard coming out of the cabin, and Harry was yelling with great joy, "It's a boy! It's a boy! I have a son!" Elizabeth looked at Harry as he held his son. She was satisfied with the delightful expression on her husband's face as she looked at him bonding with their child. Elizabeth asked Harry, "What shall we name the child?" Harry said, "The whole world shall sing because of him. His name shall be Flute." Elizabeth said, "Flute, as in the musical instrument?" Harry said, "Yes, because the flute is the most beautiful sound that I have ever heard." Harry then placed the baby into Elizabeth's arms while she lay in bed. Elizabeth held the baby in her arms and said, "Hello, Flute Tudor. Welcome to the world." In Dover, England, there was another mansion that would have been referred to as a palace just a century ago. The mansion was so old that a 90-foot tower, used to house prisoners in ancient times, was now used to practice the art of black magic by a particular group of dark wizards. Dark wizards were also wizards and witches who lived in countries all over the world. The dark wizards and witches referred to themselves as the Dark Wizard Order, but these particular groups of dark wizards were English wizards. All dark wizards and dark witches were once white wizards and witches, but the white wizards and witches became accustomed to darkness once they began to travel on the passage of evil. The word dark and darkness is a substitute word for evil. So instead of the dark wizards calling themselves the evil wizards or the evil order, they preferred to use the word dark. It did not matter what race or country a wizard or witch was from. Either they were upright and belonged to the white order, or they were evil and belonged to the dark order. Inside a very large room at the top of the tower that the English dark wizards were in, there were 4 thrones, and 4 dark wizards sat on those thrones. The thrones all sat next to each other. This same pattern was carried out in every high place that the dark wizards and witches gathered in to practice black magic. No matter what country or nation you went to, there was a place where dark witches and wizards had their meetings together. These places were always at the top of something. If it was in a hotel, they would be on the top floor. If on a mountain, they would be somewhere close to the top. And if in a house, and the house had an attic, they would be in the attic practicing their black magic arts. For some odd reason, the dark wizards believed that being at the height of any place gave them absolute power over everything below them. In every tower, in every attic, in every top floor, near the top of a mountain, and in every high place that the dark wizards and dark witches gathered together, there were always 4 who sat on thrones and ruled over all the other dark wizards and witches who met with them. But there was always one who outranked the other 3 dark wizards who sat on the thrones in a gathering of dark wizards and witches. Only dark wizards were allowed on these 4 thrones, because they thought the witches to be weak, and only pawns to their deceptions and lies. Plus, there had always been dark witches who went back to the path of uprightness and became white witches again, so the dark wizards had very little trust in them. In Dover, England, where the 4 dark wizards sat on thrones in the tower, a dark wizard who outranked the other 3 wizards was called Hannibal. Hannibal was the leader of this particular group of dark wizards, and they referred to him as the head sorcerer. On the floor in front of the 4 thrones was a large white vessel shaped like a round bowl, but was about the size of a bathtub. Inside of the vessel was a liquid the color of pitch black and filled to the top. All 4 of the dark wizards stared at the pitch black liquid. As the wizards stared at the black liquid, their entire eyeballs and pupils were as black as the liquid. The liquid inside the vessel moved every time the voices spoke that came out of the vessel. It was the sound as if 5 people were all whispering different things at the same time, and as the voices spoke, the liquid vibrated. Then the head sorcerer Hannibal spoke to the voices in the vessel with the pitch-black liquid. "Has the child of prophecy told by the 16th century astronomer Royal Wizards been born yet?" This time, all the voices spoke the same words, and their voices were in concert with one another. "According to our visions, the child would have been born on March the 21st, which has passed and gone, but the place where the child was supposed to be born has changed. The child's parents have taken another path than the one that have been normally traveled. But to answer your question, yes, we believe that the child has already been born," replied the voices in the vessel. "Then where is the child?" yelled Hannibal. "The trees and the grass have not seen them. The spiders nor the ants have not seen them. The birds nor the bats, the mice nor the rats, not even the beast of the fields nor the mountains nor the hills have seen Harry Tudor or his wife, who have for certain given birth to the child of prophecy," replied the voices inside the vessel. Hannibal rose from the throne he sat on and looked away from the vessel that had the pitch-black liquid in it, and as he looked away, his eyes turned back to their original state. You could now see the whiting of his eyeballs and the color of his pupils, which were green. The other 3 dark wizards looked away from the vessel as well, and their eyes also changed from total blackness to their original state. The voices in the vessel ceased, and the pitch-black liquid turned to clear water. Hannibal began to raise up his staff that he held in his hand. The other 3 dark wizards had a staff in one of their hands as well. The staffs stood about 6 feet tall, and each staff had a birthstone that was connected to the tip of it. These stones were the birthstones to signify what month of the year that a wizard or witch was born, and since there are 12 months to a year and there are 12 zodiac signs, there were also 12 birthstones that represented that represented what time of the year all wizards and witches were born. When dark wizards and dark witches joined the Dark Wizard Order, their birthstones turned black, but if they turned back to the path of uprightness, their birthstones regained their color. These English dark wizards in the Tower in Dover, England, wore their black robes with hoods, but none of them were wearing the hoods over their head at the time. All 4 of these wizards had long white hair with long white mustaches, like that of wizards in ancient times. Hannibal, with his staff raised and looking out the tower window into the sky, said, "Fowls of the heavens who steal men's souls, come to me, old crooked path crows." As Hannibal continued to look out the window into the sky, he could see in the distance that a flock of crows were headed towards the tower, so he went and sat back on his throne. The crows came flying through the window of the tower and came to rest wherever there was a place to land. "I speak to the leader of this flock only," spoke Hannibal. "As a shore is shallow and an ocean is deep, I loosen your tongue in the language I speak." A crow flew up on the edge of the vessel that stood before the 4 thrones and said, "It is I who leads this cruel flock." "Who are you in league with?" asked Hannibal. "Eagles, falcons, hawks, and owls are my most unkindly enemies," the crow replied. "They submit to the white wizards and the white witches who are your enemies. Therefore, your enemies are my enemies, and so only I am in league with the Dark Wizard Order." Then have only 3 of this flock you lead stay behind with you, demanded Hannibal, and command the others to leave this tower at once. The leader of the flock of crows took flight and began to fly around the room, telling other crows in their language to leave the tower, while instructing only 3 of the crows to stay behind with him. Hannibal commanded for the 4 crows who remained behind after all the other crows had left the tower to fly out of the window and remain flying outside the tower. As the crows flew out the window, Hannibal said, "As a storm brings rain and wind blows dust, I command these birds to grow larger than us." The crows immediately became giant crows, big enough to carry 2 humans on their backs. Each of the 4 dark wizards took turns running and leaping out the window of the tower, landing on the back of one of the 4 crows that Hannibal requested to stay behind when the other crows left. Riding on the backs of the giant crows with their hoods totally covering their heads, the English dark wizards now looked like 4 grim reapers traveling in the midnight sky. They were headed towards Liverpool, England, Anna Tudor's residence. When they arrived at Anna's house, 3 of the English dark wizards flew above the mansion in a constant circle formation, while Hannibal, the head sorcerer, flew down towards the mansion to pay Anna a most unwelcome visit. Anna was in a chair in her bedroom, brushing her hair while looking in a mirror at herself. She noticed through the reflection of the mirror that she was looking into that a huge giant eyeball was looking at her through her bedroom window. Anna became startled and jumped to her feet, turning around to see if what she saw in the mirror was true. When she turned around, the eye was gone, so Anna began to move towards the window to look outside. Suddenly, the window flew open and Hannibal came rushing through it while levitating in the air. Anna went stumbling backward, falling to the floor because she was frightened of the unexpected and sudden appearance of Hannibal coming through her bedroom window. Hannibal pointed his staff at Anna and sent her rising up to the ceiling of the room, pinning her to the ceiling by some invisible magic force. Anna's arms and legs were stretched out against the ceiling. Hannibal floated to the floor, allowing his feet to settle. Hannibal walked underneath Anna and looked up at her while she stayed pinned to the ceiling. Hannibal asked Anna, "Where are your son and his wife?" Anna said, "My husband would be so ashamed of you, Hannibal, if he were to see you like this, full of darkness and very wicked. It would break his heart if he were alive to see you as a dark wizard, a most evil sorcerer." Hannibal replied, "But yet I am more powerful than he would have ever been if he had remained alive, and I grow more powerful with each passing day. Now where is your son, witch?" Anna said, "The child must have been born, or you would have never come. I take it that you know a different path has been taken, so that the Dark Order would not be able to kill the child. It is too late, Hannibal. The child shall destroy the Dark Order once and for all. You can still turn back to the path of uprightness before it's too late, and you change to blackness and become a warlock forever. If that happens, Hannibal, you will be sent for destruction, and you will be cast into the abyss of eternal gloom. Forsake your evil ways and the passage of evil, and turn back. Hannibal, you can become upright again," said Anna. Hannibal replied, "Do you think you can convert me, you foolish witch? Are my eyes deceiving me, or are you the one who was helpless before me?" Hannibal then levitated up to the ceiling where Anna was being pinned by an unseen force. He placed his hand on Anna's head and said, "The sun, the stars, and the clock can tell time. Let the thoughts of this witch also become mine." Anna's thoughts flashed through the mind of Hannibal, and he saw Harry and Elizabeth in a yacht sailing away from land. Anna was standing on the shore watching her son and wife sail out into the ocean. Hannibal removed his hand from Anna's head and said, "Your thoughts have betrayed you, witch, for now I know that the child is at sea." Hannibal ran and jumped out the window, landing on the back of the giant crow. Once Hannibal met the other 3 English dark wizards in the sky that were circling above the mansion, he shouted, "To the sea, my sorcerer comrades! We shall destroy the child at sea." Hannibal and the 3 English dark wizards headed towards the Atlantic Ocean, leaving Liverpool, England. Thus ends Chapter 1 of Flute Tudor and the Secret Order by J.J. Jones. I have so many questions. What is Nambia, for instance? The world of peace! As the world of peace shows up in all caps locks when Nambia is mentioned. How can a library look like a public library museum? What is a public library museum? I don't know. Join us next time, where we shall read